Hey guys, what's up? It is Ripe again, back with more revenge and malicious compliance stories. In today's title story, OP's crazy stepbrother tried to steal his inheritance and then even got him kidnapped. Without wasting any more time, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, Stepbrother tried to steal my inheritance, I had him deported and now found out he died in a war. For starters, my stepbrother and his mother, who was secretly seeing my father at the time, plotted a decade ago to steal my mom's properties by blackmailing my father to terrorize her. My mother discovered it before it got too bad, but we lost our home and she lost her marriage and I lost my dad. Then on top of this, they bribed someone to have me kidnapped and almost got me falsely imprisoned, left me with insane legal bills and PTSD, and to top this all off, they burned my grandparents' house down the day of my high school graduation, where I was living at the time. I ended up homeless, and of all the things I was able to retrieve, a USB drive was one of them. A decade later, I decided to go through to see what was in it, and I found secret recordings I had taken early on of my stepbrother and his mom's sketch actions. One of them made me uncover that he had committed immigration fraud to come into the country. After more years of being threatened by them, more blackmailing, my dad to not leave me anything, not even to cover medical bills, I finally had enough. I got in touch with as many legal experts as I could and basically drafted a dossier on my stepbrother and his mom and submitted it to the authorities. Summer of last year, I received an update that he got his citizenship stripped and then processed for deportment to his origin country along with his mother and every family member of theirs they brought with them. I was in total shock. The investigators dug up everything, they called everyone. They did a whole ass investigation of the past 20 years and their House of Cards fell apart. By the way, House of Cards, great Netflix show if you haven't seen it already. Anyway, his degrees, his professional licenses, they would be useless in a country where he was only born in but knows nothing about. Today I also learned the region he was deported to had a violent conflict break out just after his arrival. For months there have been reports coming out of names of deceased people and his name was confirmed as well. He had been drafted after the conflict and he passed away sometime in November. I haven't heard anything about his family and my father obviously doesn't talk to me anymore since I got his new family deported and basically killed his happily ever after dream. I don't know how to feel about this. Do I feel happy? Guilty? Am I evil? I already made my peace. If someone wants to hurt me next, then it is my time. Or if I am judged by any deities, I rather they judge me. My stepbrother shouldn't have defrauded his way into citizenship. He shouldn't have lied to investigators and government officials. He should not have flown, I guess in this case, so close to the sun when he saw the millions from my inheritance and decided he was just going to take it from me. There are consequences in life and he met his ultimate fate. If there's any consolation, I got a degree, a nice job and a great girlfriend, and I go to therapy and just try to live a decent life and try not to get kidnapped or burned alive in my home. And yeah, Ripe stars, I gotta say, that is a pretty heavy story, and I'm not even exactly sure if I would classify this really as revenge. To be honest, I could not even think of what kind of subreddit this story really belongs in. If you have any good suggestions, let us know in the comments. The next one is titled, Ex's divorce lawyer sent 3 years of complete financials or else. Me, as you wish. This happened several years ago when my ex and I were going through a heated divorce/custody battle. While we were married, we had a couple of conversations about how rich people hide their assets to avoid paying taxes. I have never had enough assets to do this, but she somehow got the idea that I was and told her attorney that I was laundering money and hiding income. It was more likely the heat of the moment, as divorce/custody battles often come down to. I could not even afford my own attorney, so I represented myself. Her lawyer was not a total ass, but he clearly was out to get me, and he talked down to me like I didn't deserve to breathe the same air. One day I get a letter in the mail from him requesting an updated income declarations form and 3 years of financials. It had a long ass list of things to include. I own a communications tech company that was in super startup phase back then. Money was already tight. I was trying to get this business off the ground with no financing. I was finishing my MBA with scholarships and loans, so paying for copies and postage or driving this 30 miles to his office meant eating peanut butter and saltines for a week. So I called him to explain my situation. He all but called me a liar and didn't believe I couldn't afford it. I was put off by that, and I said this was taking time away from business I needed to handle. To which he replied, and I will never forget that,
"Well, according to your income declarations, you're not that busy. What do you do all day?"
He then said if he didn't get these documents, he would consider my previous filings as fraudulent, tell the judge, contact the DA, and also alert the state tax agency and IRS. Probably an empty threat, but I'm no lawyer. eFax is one of the services my company provides, and at this time it was relatively unknown. So I asked him if he has a fax machine. He said he had a fax/scanner/copier device, and then said what law office doesn't have a fax machine. And I suddenly got an idea. "Okay," I said to him, "I will put together and fax whatever I can." "Okay, mother trucker, you want 3 years of financials? You got it." I scanned to PDF every receipt I could find. McDonald's receipt from 5 years ago? F it won't hurt to include it. CVS receipt? It is 3 miles long. Perfect. They get the $1 off toothpaste coupons too. I downloaded every bank statement, credit card statement, purchase orders from vendors, and every invoice I sent to clients. I printed to PDF the entire 3-year accounting journal, monthly, quarterly, annual balance sheets, cash flow statements, P&Ls, etc. Not only did I PDF 3 years of tax filings, but every single letter I received from the IRS and state tax agency, including the inserts advising me of my rights. It took a while, but I was a few days ahead of the deadline. I made a cover page black background with white lettering. Wherever I could, I included separator pages in all caps in the biggest, boldest font that would fit on the page in landscape, saying 20XX receipts, 20XX taxes, etc. I merged everything into a single 150 plus page compressed PDF and sent the document using my eFax system. Every hour or so, I received a status email saying the fax failed. That's weird. Well, they are getting this document. So I changed the system configuration to unlimited retries after failures to keep redialing until it went through. Weird, I was still getting status email failures. I will delete the failure emails and keep the success one after it eventually goes through, I thought. Problem solved. 2 days later, a lady from his office called and asked me to stop sending the fax. Their fax/scanner/printer/copier had been printing non-stop. It kept getting paper jams, just kept running out of ink, and they had to keep shutting it off and back on to print. I explained that her boss told me to send this by the deadline or else he would call the DA and IRS. Since I didn't want a call from the DA or the IRS, I would keep sending until I got a success confirmation. I suggested they just not print until my fax completes, but she didn't like that. She asked me to email the documents, and I told a little white lie that my email would not allow an attachment that big unless her boss in writing agreed to cancel the request or agreed to reimburse me for my costs to print and ship. I said I would continue to fax until they confirm that they have received every page. She put me on hold and the attorney gets on the line. He said, "Forget sending the financials." I said that I would need this in writing, so I will keep sending the fax until he sent that to me. He asked me to stop faxing and he would send it in writing, and I said send it in writing first and then I would stop. Long moment of silence, and then about 20 minutes later, I received an email from his assistant with an attached signed letter in PDF that I no longer needed to provide financials. The letter then threatened to pursue sanctions in court or sue me for interfering with their business. every time I saw him after that, the lawyer never brought up sanctions, lawsuits, criminal referrals, or financials up again. And I have to admit, RIPE stars, that is a pretty genius way of dealing with an attorney. But unfortunately, I would say that in the future, if at one point, and I'm not really sure if that will happen anytime in the near future, people stop using fax for good, then such a revenge probably won't be possible anymore. But then again, guys, I am still quite surprised how many officers still use fax. Do they still use fax where you work at the moment? Let us know in the comments. And guys, if you have watched until here, I would really appreciate it if you could post some star emojis in the comments and maybe even like the video if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance, your help is very much appreciated. And the next one is titled, "My ex-advisor plagiarized my work, so I exposed her and that cost her her job. Just found out about this subreddit and had to share this story. The initial reason for the revenge happened in 2013, but the revenge only happened in 2017. I will keep everything vague as not to be recognized." For context, back in 2013 I was a graduate student pursuing my master's degree. That was my last year in the program. We had 24 months to finish all the work and the dissertation. My advisor was a professor who was very well known and experienced on my field of work. Let's call her Janet, which is a fake name. Janet and I had worked together with research since my college days as I became part of an undergraduate research with her. At that point we had been working for about 4 years, and as any advisor-student relationship, we had disagreements quite often. Janet was used to doing her experiments a certain archaic way. I knew there were better uses of our grant's money and always tried to push towards a more advanced method, especially correlating data collection and statistics. However, our relationship was always good. I knew her husband and had been to her house numerous times. She was a little set on her ways, but we managed to make good progress on our field. Anyhow, by the end of 2013, I presented my dissertation to the department and was approved with flying colors. My data still was not published in any paper, as I wanted to have more analysis in different areas to make a more robust and better paper. With that said, my dissertation was published, and by all reasons that is my work and my experiments. After I got my MS, I decided to pursue a PhD. While I was still going to work in the same field, I wanted to use different techniques and thus talked with Janet about going to pursue a PhD under a different professor in another university. She always encouraged me to do better and look for ways to diversify my views. I went ahead and contacted a professor outside my country in another university to pursue my PhD. I got approved and soon moved away. For the next 2 years I still kept contact with Janet, but on the third she stopped responding. Initially I thought she had changed her email or something, but I didn't think too much of it. Time flew by, and in 2017, while reading papers and writing my own, I came across a paper that was strangely similar with my research. Interested in it, I opened it up to read. For my shock, it was a paper by my ex-advisor. She was up as advisor and another guy who from his curriculum is her current master's student. Reading the title I thought, hey, that's neat. She continued researching it. But boy, was I wrong. Reading the paper, I got increasingly angry. That was not a new research. It was my research. My data was all in that paper, even my graphs and tables, and initially I thought, oh well, she is also an author, and if she is citing it, there shouldn't be a problem. But unfortunately, that was not the case. My name was nowhere near that paper, as they claimed that research as original. Now I was livid. I sent an email to Janet confronting her, which was never replied to. However, I'm not a pushover and will never allow people to claim my own work as theirs. She made a mistake by using my data. I'm a researcher and I keep everything I ever worked on saved in an external SSD, encrypted and on my own possession. All catalogued with date entries, and even had my own dissertation to prove my work. In my country, research is financed by the governmental grants, so I wrote an email to the dean of the grants institution explaining the situation with proof of everything. I also sent an email to the journal in which the paper was published, contesting their paper and explaining everything. It didn't take longer than 15 days for me to get a follow-up. The institution responsible for the grant was furious. They cut all financial aid for her and her student and made a formal requirement to the university requesting her immediate termination. The journal retracted the paper and is now suing her for plagiarism. Now, after all these years, I learned that she was indeed fired and hasn't been able to work in the field ever since. I never met her again and I have no intention of ever doing so. Now my work is published and I am recognized by my contributions in the field. Maybe that was a petty thing to do, but I couldn't allow people to get away with claiming my work as theirs. A few things to note. The only reason I said it was petty is because since she is also an author, she has the right to publish it, but she needed to include me on the paper, which she didn't do. Also, there are laws in place in my country that allow the journal to sue her. This is not an international journal, that's why that happened. I work with medical research for those that asked, but I cannot share the paper as that would easily identify me. Another thing, people have been questioning my terms. In my country, a master's candidate needs to present a dissertation and a PhD candidate needs to present a thesis. Sorry if I wasn't clear enough. Cheers. And the next one is titled, My coworker screwed me and I screwed him. I make plastic. It is a menial labor at entry level, but with my gap in work history due to a car accident and no money for a college degree, I took what I could get, which is actually $3 an hour more than I'm used to. I was happy. I had no car because it was totaled in the accident that left me unable to work. Herniated disc in the neck, doctor's order, and originally I hitched rides to work with my mother. It was and is a 20-mile trip to work. She would make the trip there and back twice a day. Adding 100 miles a day to the car did not seem fair, so I found rides with coworkers. I started as a temp and was hired as a permanent employee. I found a coworker who drove the route same as me and carpooled. We will call him Chris. Chris likes to party and has no sense of responsibility. I didn't know this as he was selected to be a team lead. Over time as we rode together, I learned more about him. He was always high on pot, I don't mind, it is none of my business, and drank a lot every night party style. I figured as long as he fulfilled his obligations to me, it was not a problem. I was paying for the gas to work and home, so it was cool. Until one day, he just does not show up at the gas station to pick me up. No warning, no call, no show. I have a very supportive family. I call my mom, I'm adopted, hitch a ride and tell them I'll be late. I get there, I get dinged for the lateness, but I showed. Later on I find out it was because he was arrested. It is cool, I understand, stuff happens. Fast forward, this dude is promoted. It's a politics thing, he hates being the team lead and smokes pot in his car on lunch break to stay calm. This annoys me. Everyone can smell it, everyone knows. Why is he in charge? He has proven to be unreliable. What the hell? I buy a car but it needs a clutch. I'm fixing it only to learn the part is wrong. I have an expensive paperweight for a few days while I wait for the right part. I need a ride and Chris says he will take care of me. He is also supposed to pick up another guy who works with us. Same day, I wait in the morning. Call, text, blow up the phone, he does not show. Again, I call my emergency backup, which is my mom, like she hasn't already enough problems. I get to work but I am late. Reggie, the other guy supposed to catch a ride, does not show at all. I didn't even know he was supposed to ride with us until later. So, Chris is supposed to be in charge but is so irresponsible that he doesn't pick up 2 other people and leaves the crew 3 men short. Why didn't he show? Hospitalization. I felt guilty for being angry. Roughly 2 weeks later, Chris and I were talking and I learned why he was hospitalized. Alcohol poisoning. He screwed over the team and the company because he drank too much and on a night he knew he had to work and knew he had 2 other people counting on him, got sick and ended up hospitalized, screwing everyone. I decided enough was enough. I had developed a friendship with the HR rep and mentioned that Chris got high in his car on lunch breaks in passing. Chris was again chosen for another promotion to machine operator. This is huge. They are entrusting a person with a multi-million-dollar machine, and he just happened to get piss dropped. And came up dirty. He got fired. And Ripe stars, with this we have unfortunately reached the end of today's video. However, if you cannot get enough of my stories, then I would highly suggest you to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will show up at any moment in the left corner of the screen, which includes over 1000 Ripe stories. In addition, if you would like to share one of your own stories, then please head on over to r/Ripe Stories on Reddit, where you can post your own story and there is a good chance that I might read it in a video. In addition, please also check out my Patreon at patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos that you won't find on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, your daily support is very much appreciated, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.